We have an update to a story the Target 12 investigators have been tracking for years: solitary confinement at the ACI.
Starting this Sunday, new limits for how long an inmate can be alone in a cell will go into effect at the Cranston prison.
Target 12 investigator Kate Wilkinson talked to one inmate who spent months in solitary.
Groups like the United Nations have condemned the practice, and now a 30-day cap is being put in place at the ACI for how long an inmate can be alone in a cell for up to 23 hours a day. The decision coming from ongoing mediation between prison officials and the ACLU of Rhode Island. Brandon Robinson served 15 years at the ACI. He says he spent 90 days in solitary confinement and 8 months in their high-security facility after getting into a couple of fights. He describes the punishment, however, as torture.
For me, it was like, you just hearing people screaming, hearing people losing it. It's torture in itself. I started to deteriorate myself.
Brandon says the longer periods of time in those cells can have serious impacts on your mental health.
You may see lines on the wall from people counting their days. You might see somebody's name on there saying, they love someone. You might see blood, you might see all kind of different things in there.
A spokesperson for the Rhode Island Department of Corrections declined a request for an interview, but sent in an email that they have not had solitary confinement in the state for decades. Instead, they have what they call disciplinary confinement. But an attorney working with the ACLU of Rhode Island pushed back, saying disciplinary confinement is just solitary confinement by another name. The organization says prisoners at the ACI would spend 22 to 24 hours a day in these cells, in some cases for a year or more. In 2016, Target 12 was able to see where inmates serve time for disciplinary confinement. According to the new regulations put out by the DOC, inmates will serve no more than 30 days of disciplinary confinement for Class 1 offenses.
Those that are the most serious, such as assaulting a correctional officer, using a weapon to attempt to hurt another inmate, those sorts of things can be Class 1 offenses.
Sonia Dio is the civil rights attorney working with the ACLU of Rhode Island. The policy change, she says, comes from 3 years of continued mediation with the DOC.
It isn't that individuals aren't going to be held accountable for what they've done. It's more that as a society, we have an obligation to try to assist these individuals to get better.
The new policy at the ACI also includes the creation of the restorative housing program. Coming up at 6, I'll explain what that is and why some say these policies need to go further. With the Target 12 investigators, Kate Wilkinson, 12 News.